1 minute, I'm keeled over in fetal position, crying in the corner up against my couch. And the next minute, I got to experience the most orgasmic bliss state for about 20 or 30 minutes, just like allowing the death and the grief to be so penetrative was also what had allowed this orgasmic, ecstatic, extended state of bliss. Being an awakened woman, being an erotic woman is a way of life. It's reclaiming the breadth and depth of what it means to just feel. I get to go in the depths of myself because I will also get to experience the equal and opposite. And so how can I truly allow myself to surrender into the fucking void, the deep unknown, the scariest moments of my life, and just allow for that pain, because there will be that equal and opposite. Kundalini is that coiled serpent that lays dormant at the base of your spine. And when you have an awakening, it's when that dormant snake rises from base to crown. It's amazing, the clearing, the healing, the opening, the balancing that happens. Women that have never experienced orgasm are now coming to me and they're like, holy shit, I've never felt this way before. They're having awakenings and activations and like allowing themselves to feel for the first time. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Home to Self podcast. My name is Lilly, and today on the show, I've got Kat. Kat, you are a pleasure priestess and somatic sorceress, and I am excited to get all the codes from you today regarding pleasure, somatics, Kundalini awakenings, energetic orgasms. We're going to dive right in to all the juicy conversations, and I'm so excited. I know this is also a little bit of an edge for me. Like, the podcast has been opening more and more into these kinds of conversations, also very unplanned, but I'm like, it's just funny how it really aligns with where I'm at in my life and what I'm interested in and the people around me in the field as well. And yeah, so I'm really excited to chat with you today and hear all about the wisdom that you've acquired through the work that you do. And so I just want to pass it over to you first and hear a little bit more about what these titles mean to you and what is the work that you actually do. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lily. It's such a pleasure to be here. And really, even in reclaiming that word pleasure, I lived in Costa Rica. I lived in Central America for almost 3 years. And in Central America, that's like a very, like in Spanish, it's a very normal thing to say, like, con gusto, mi placer. Like, it's just like, oh, it's a pleasure. Yes, thank you for letting me serve you. And so there's been this reclamation of pleasure, of that word. I have a few corporate clients that I work with, and I talk about sensuality and pleasure. And I remember in the beginning when I brought those words into that space, it set off alarm bells. People were automatically thinking like, oh my God, we're going to be talking about sex. And yes, we'll talk about sex too, you and I. And it's like, how can we just allow desire, pleasure, also like welcoming in pain as a part of pleasure? I have claimed putting myself in pleasure jail actually for the next 2 years. So I'm like really going to devote to a few specific offerings that are centered around pleasure. And I was having a conversation with a number of women that I'm in circle with regarding this. And they're like, I feel like I'm going to pain jail. Like, I'm grieving, like, and I want people to realize that like pain can also exist in pleasure jail, that pleasure gets to exist in pain jail, right? It's like reclaiming the breadth and depth of what it means to just feel. And so with the work that I'm bringing into the world, it's less about right or wrong, good or bad, and more about expanding one's capacity to feel more. And my boyfriend that I was just mentioning before, this man, he hikes barefoot. And I'm like, you are a nut, first off. Second off, like, doesn't that hurt? And he's like, I have completely disentangled the association of what pain is in my body. And so it's really about like deprogramming what we have reinforced to be this one specific experience, and creating a more like a greater scope in what pleasure, sensation, sensuality can feel like. And that's really the work that I do, being a somatic sorceress, inviting people into their bodies, cultivating a relationship with energy, right, which is over 99% of our reality. Is, I'm not scientist, not going to get into the atom thing, but I'm pretty sure an electron takes up the most space, last time I checked, in an atom. And so it's like, yeah, so much, everything is energy. Some things are just more dense, some things are lighter, and more spacious. And that somatic piece is about like cultivating a relationship with body, with your subtle energy body. And then pleasure, being the pleasure priestess, is really about being the conduit for people to experience more pleasure, more pain, and really just like welcoming it all in. And when I really claimed that piece as the pleasure priestess, and I was sitting with that of like, what does that mean for me? It's like the things that come through my channel and that I experience in my body get to be at the altar of love and healing and divinity for others. And when you think of like medicine people and priests, right, like they carry medicine into the world, they heal the world. And so that's really like what I am doing through the lens of pleasure, is healing the world. I love that, because it's so true. And especially when it comes to healing and spiritual awakening, I think that there's such a, I don't know, this like illusion that it always has to come through pain. And so for it to actually come through pleasure, and that is such a conversation that I feel is so prevalent right now with so many people that I've been talking to in my own life, of like, how can we actually rise into the next level and grow and expand, but through pleasure. And of course, that doesn't mean you'll never have pain either. I think it's your capacity to feel all of it, like you said. Like I often think about it as, there's like a spectrum of emotions, right? And we can call one positive, one negative. I don't really relate with that, but just as an understanding. And I think so many people get caught right in the middle, where they're feeling a little bit happy, a little bit sad, but there's such a greater spectrum to feel. And I'm curious to hear from you, like, what does expanding our capacity to feel all of it actually do for us?
Totally. So I'll give a couple examples in my life of the most profound pain and grief and loss that I had felt. One was a few years back, and one was just a couple weekends ago. So this was back in 2021, going into 2022. At the end of 2021, it was like December 30th. I thought I had just gotten my period. I was with a boyfriend at the time. I was learning what it meant to be on non-hormonal birth control and really just like cycle awareness, cycle tracking. That 1 month, I stopped tracking and we conceived. It was clear that I was not going to birth this baby. And 11 days later, I chose to have an abortion. From there, yes, that was like literally the most excruciating physical pain I've ever experienced in my life. In that moment that I was passing that fetus, and thereafter, I experienced the most painful heartbreak I've ever experienced, from ego death to who am I? I didn't know that this would could happen to me. Like really allowing parts of who I thought that I was, of being this woman that's like spiritual integrity, like tossing these like words around that she's getting pregnant. Like what does that mean about her, right? And so I experienced so much pain. But in that pain, in that complete loss of self, in that dark, dark night of the soul of not knowing which direction was up or down, how to even catch my breath, I would wake up sobbing in the middle of the night and just completely out of sorts. I also simultaneously was able to just like experience the utmost pleasure. And what I come from a background of NLP. And when you think about one of the 12 universal laws. One is like cause and effect. And then we have the law of gender, which is masculine and feminine, and like karma. What goes up must come down. And the deeper the roots, the bigger the branches. The brighter you shine, the bigger shadow you cast. And so I started to have this visceral experience of like, wow, I get to go in the depths of myself because I will also get to experience the equal and opposite. And so, how can I truly allow myself to surrender into the fucking void, the deep unknown, the scariest moments of my life that I've experienced, sober, because there have been some scary psychedelic moments too. We won't get into that right now. Um, but like these scariest moments, sobering moments of my life, and just allow for that pain, because there will be that equal and opposite. And fuck yeah, I want to experience, if I get to experience this amount of death and decay and descent, then like the shine is going to be so much brighter. um and so I just want to like, yeah, open that as an invitation for people. Like, there's a woman that just completed my challenge, a 21-day Kundalini activation. She was like, I'm going through it. And I'm like, fuck yes, I celebrate that for you, because you also get to hold, the equal and opposite of that. So it's like the more that you allow yourself to surrender into the 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 shit and the unknown and the underworld, you get to also experience that effect, the equal and opposite reaction. um Now, the story that I want to share from just the other day, this was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. um I was grieving my grandfather, the loss of my grandfather. He just passed last Saturday. So it's been 10 days since his passing. And I got to be by his side on his last day of his passing. And that following day, I received a phone call that he had transitioned. And I go home and I kneel by my altar and I light a candle for him, and I just go into a process. And I'm pretty like I'm very clear. My body and my channel is very clear, so it's really easy for me to just like surrender into how energy wants to move me, and it moves through Kundalini. And it was the most beautiful, dramatic grief I've ever felt. And I was grieving for not only myself, but for, my father, who had an estranged relationship toward the end of his life, and for his, my grandfather's wife, who had already passed 10 years before, and for my aunt who'd been holding him. And so I got to be this conduit and channel of grief. And at the same time, as like 1 minute I'm keeled over in fetal position, crying in the corner up against my couch. Like, if somebody walked in, they would have been like, are you okay? You do not look well. And the next minute, I got to experience the most orgasmic, like, bliss state for about 20 or 30 minutes. I ended up taking off all my clothes and I sat in front of the mirror and I was butt ass naked. And I was like, holy shit, you're so beautiful. And so it's like that experience, just like allowing the death and the grief to be so penetrative to my soul, was also what had allowed this orgasmic, ecstatic, extended like state of bliss to just also penetrate, because I'm not resisting, right? And I think so many of us, like, we're resisting, we're like holding our breath. Oh my God, like, tight assholes, loosen, relax your butthole, like shit. And like, you get to experience so much more pleasure. Oh my God, my boyfriend loves it. I'm like, yeah, you can like play with my butt. Like, I'm down, like, pain is pleasure, like, whatever. Just breathe. And that's like through all of it, pain is pleasure. Just breathe, stay with your breath.
Mm. So good. Yeah, I mean, really the tightening of all of it, right? The tightening of the butthole, the tightening of the belly, of the chest, of the throat. It's like so many people are just so constricted. And I think that, and I mean, this was also my pattern for so long, and I still catch myself at times. But it's so interesting because it becomes so normal when it's like all you know, because you're just always in this state of like mild to severe stress and like contraction. And I think that, I mean, I'm curious to hear from you, but I feel like that is one of the greatest obstacles to us feeling, because so much of feeling is just like they say, emotion is just energy in motion, right? And it's just energy that wants to move through. We label it as good and bad and right and wrong, and this should and shouldn't be, pain and pleasure and all these things, but really it's just energy moving. And so we're going to get into Kundalini and all of that in just a moment, but I'm curious to hear from you. Yeah, like, do you feel like that constriction, that block, is our biggest obstacle to feeling more?
Definitely. Yeah. And like our society is so adverse to pain, period, you know? And when my grandfather passed, like I said, it was one of the most ecstatic moments of my life. And I got to be by this man's side at his final frontier and at this beautiful rite of passage that not everyone gets to witness. And that was the one conception to me, the three ultimate rites of passage, like conception is in there. That's for me, that's a yes. And then it's birth and death. And to be by someone's side as we're transitioning, like I welcome that in, I celebrate that. And we're so scared. I have a sister, not blood sister, but a sister, a dear sister of mine. She's in a relationship, and her and her partner just got married recently, and of course, weddings. It's so exciting. Oh my God, celebrations, high highs. And then it's like the rubber band effect, the slingshot effect, and the snapback of like, oh, setting into reality. We got to go back to work. Like, and I'm like, honey, just know that it's normal. Know your life isn't falling apart. Know that the man is not going to walk out on you. And just know that this this too will pass, and then you guys are going to have another amazing moment. And to just normalize like the ebb and the flow, and to look outside and see the decay and the leaves falling, and us entering into the fall, into the winter, into the second half of the year, and just how natural it is. And so I welcome it because it's just the most human, natural thing to experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you describe that as an allowing, right? Allowing it to happen, because this death and rebirth is happening constantly, especially for the feminine, but really everywhere, all around us, in nature, within us, everywhere. And I think that the constriction, the block of energy, is our resistance to what is naturally wanting to happen, the changing, the seasons, the death and rebirth cycles, right?
Totally. And the more like comfortable you become with nature just doing its thing, like we're nature. And the more pleasure you'll have in the decay and the descent, because you're like, oh yeah, it happens. It's all good. Like I'm gonna experience the same, equal and opposite. Spring's gonna come back around. Like it's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so earlier you talked about Kundalini. And for people who, I assume most people have heard of Kundalini, but will you just give us a brief understanding of what Kundalini energy is? And also curious to hear if there's a difference between Kundalini activation and Kundalini awakenings, which I think there is,
Mm,
but yeah.
mm. Oh, good question. Yeah, so Kundalini energy is really the coiled serpent that lives at the base of the spine, and the serpent is this feminine force. So when we talk about Kundalini, it's Shakti. And yesterday, actually, when I was in a beautiful lovemaking session with my partner, he was like, I'm at the devotion of the feminine and the force. And I was like, what's that like? Like, I've never been with a woman, so I don't know what the feminine force is besides in my own body. And it's this all knowing, like, your most activated, awakened force is the same as my, force. It's like this collective oneness. And so Kundalini is that coiled serpent that lays dormant at the base of your spine. And when you start to work with your nadis, which are your energy centers, there's over 72,000 nadis in the body. We work with the 7 main energy centers, which are the chakras, as we know today, from the base to the crown. And when you even see the medical, the Western medical symbol are 2 snakes with angel wings at the top. That is the Ida and Pingala nadi that are conjoining at each chakra energetic center. So the Ida nadi is representative of the divine, of the feminine, of the lunar, of that more water passive, rest digest energy. And then the pingala is the fire, the masculine, the solar energy within each of us. And so we weave them together from base to crown, and they meet at these different center points. And really, like any disease is pretty much associated with an imbalance at one of these energy centers. I come from a traditional yogic lineage. I have my 200 hour, and I've also studied Kriya. Kriya has been a beautiful opening for my own Kundalini awakening. And just, I've actually my first awakening was probably, I don't know, over a decade ago, but it's been really beautiful to just continue cultivating and deepening with my Kriya practice. But yeah, Kundalini is so it's that dormant snake, and when you have an awakening, it's when that dormant snake rises from base to crown, and your chakras are going to need to be open in order for that to happen. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen. It doesn't just happen all of a sudden. There's a lot of work that needs to happen from my experience, at least. I know some people do experience spontaneous awakenings. But I had been cultivating my yoga practice, my breathwork practice. I had been Reiki attuned and initiated and certified, whatever, and been working with my nadis and my energy centers and my chakras for years before or maybe it wasn't years, but a couple of years before I had my first like Kundalini awakening. And for me, it was really subtle. It wasn't like, oh my God, fireworks, this is a light show, and I'm like out of body. Mine was like a slow chipping away at all of the armor that I had just like protected and put on over the years. And so an awakening for me versus an activation, an awakening feels like it's that initial like opening and that initial ascent of that serpent rising from base to crown. And then an activation feels like a little bit more subtle. It feels like it can happen at any point. It can happen during your meditation practice. It can happen during a self-pleasure practice, during a lovemaking practice. It can happen, as you just like sit on a park bench and close your eyes and breathe. And so that to me feels like the difference, like that awakening feels like it's like your first opening into Kundalini, and then activations are what gets to happen thereafter.
Can anyone experience Kundalini activations? Or is it something like you really have to work with and understand?
I would say anyone can experience it, and you have to work with it and understand it. So if you decide to pursue this path, in the challenge that I just ran in Energy O, which is a course that I'm going to be running, a key component of that is getting in the room, doing the embodiment practices. In this case, it's Kriya specifically, because I work with a subtle energy body through these Kriyas, which I can explain a little bit more of what Kriyas are. But yeah, like anyone can come into the classroom and start to peel back the layers. And a lot of it is about like safety too. Do you feel like you are resourced? Do you feel safe in your body? Do you feel surrendered? A lot of the Kundalini is like just, it's incontrollable. And when you try to control it, that's when your asshole starts to get tight. And that's when you start to create blockages. And you want to be in relationship with self, or if you're engaging in this with another, with a lover, for example, you want to make sure that you feel, you know, safe and held. And for me, what's been so healing is like my partner has been so affirmative for that. He's like, you're safe, I've got you. And like, especially when the energy is like really moving, it's like encouragement. I've got you, I have you, I'm holding you, I see you. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know what's happening. The feminine force, Shakti, Kundalini is just fucking me open. And like, I'm so held. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we're doing our best to describe something that is such an experiential experience in the body, but I do think it's helpful for people who are trying to wrap their heads around it. Um, so before we get into like some tips on how to actually start moving Kundalini energy and awakening it, I'm curious to hear like what kinds of shifts or transformations are possible or have you experienced with yourself or clients through through engaging and activating Kundalini energy.
So good. Yeah. And I want to say before we move on, just to what you mentioned, that piece of like, we're trying to put words to something that's so like you can't contextualize, you can't fit in a box because it is the feminine force and that is boundless. I would say like, come, like send me an inquiry, ask, get in the room. One thing that I have really claimed for myself and has really set me apart from a lot of the other facilitators in this work, in this line of work in particular, but just in general, is like the feminine does not want, like, I don't want to sit behind a computer and be spoken to. I want to have an experience. And so for me, like that's what's been really supportive for people to have these awakenings, is like getting your hands dirty, becoming a student, getting in like the kinesthetic state of like putting your body, putting your skin in the game, and having like what I call myself an experiential facilitator. And so it's like getting in the room and having like your body as part of the process. And that's when you really start to feel the awakening, the activations. So your next question was around, what was your next question?
It's like what becomes possible. Why do we do this work?
Oh, right.
What are some of the transformations?
Oh my God, so much. Oh my goddess. Okay. I would say like first and foremost, there was one Kundalini practice that I started practicing at my altar every day. And I started to have DMT trips. In this mantra was an 11-minute practice, and I started to have psychedelic experiences. I started like I started to like hallucinate, sounds started to sound different, tones, vibrations started to sound different. I entered into other dimensions, and my ancestors were there, and Jesus Christ is there. And so it gets to be this, you, as you continue to cultivate it, you get to experience expanded states of consciousness, sober psychedelic journeys. In this one in particular, I remember I was like, oh my God, I'm like, feel like I'm on DMT. I'm having an experience right now. And from there, I was like so turned on, like my whole body, the mantra that I was doing, I was like here in devotion, singing it. And like, as I'm having this like devotional practice, my whole body is like undulating and pulsating and moving. And I've had like Kundalini activations, and I'm sitting here and I'm bouncing up and down. I'm like, hold on for dear life, girl, don't just let it go. Um, and so it's amazing, the clearing, the healing, the opening, the balancing that happens from these practices. You can process grief, you can process rage, you can process repressed emotions. For me, in one of my practices, I remembered an early childhood repressed memory that had impacted every sexual experience that I had thereafter until 2 months ago, pretty much. And I saw some betrayal that happened early on in it was either my life that I don't like have clear recollection of, or a woman that had come before me, or maybe in a past life, but I felt it and I knew that it was true. And so there's like trauma healing that gets to happen at a cellular level. Many of the women that had come into Serpent Rising are like, holy shit, I'm getting money and I'm on vacation. I'm out in the middle of the desert and I'm camping and people are sending me fucking bills and like clients, and like, oh my god, I got this new program that I just channeled, and like all these people are coming in the door. It's because your field is clear, because you've claimed your space, because you've cultivated that level of confidence that you've been waiting for. A client of mine, I invited her to this event that my coach puts on, Shoshana Raven. She does this once yearly Living Brave Live. And I've paid this woman so much money, as many of us have, to business coaches. And a client of mine, she was in the mastermind with me, and then she had to take a pause because of finances. And I invited her to come join us. And before we went into this room of 1,000 people at this live event, we dropped in this ceremony. And this is like my space. I love ceremony. I love emergent fields. I'm like, great, let's see what's here and meet the moment, because I can't predict like what you're going to need then. And every group is different, but we did a Kriya practice, and then she had a really beautiful, intense clearing, and she talks about it all the time. She's like, oh my god, I had like an ayahuasca trip, and like Kat did it for 6 women in 3 hours, and we were sober, and like, what the fuck's happening? And it just has like cleared so much for her. And she was offline, she was in hiding, she didn't want to be seen, like she had this whole story. And in pretty much like a 15-minute facilitation of space that I held for her, she was able to clear years of ego, identity, trauma, belittlement, shame that she had been carrying. And she walks into that room and she's creating the next best offers that she's ever done. And so it's like, you can't investing 15,000 in a business mentor for a year is not going to get you shit if you don't have your body as part of the conversation, if you're not doing the somatic work. And I work with leaders, I work with healers, but I'm not a business coach at all, period. And you will have undoubtable, remarkable, best sex of your life moments because you do this work, because you finally have cleared all of the old shit out of the way. So yeah, I'm really proud of the results that have happened. And one woman recently, she came into my space and she's been dealing with this chronic degenerative disease, and she wasn't going to come on call because she was like having back pains and was like, oh my god, I need to stretch and do all these things. She came on call, we had like a 30-minute practice, and she was like, it's gone, my back pain's gone. I'm like, I bet it is. So it's so good. I just, yeah, everything.
I love it. Thank you for sharing some stories. And yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that, again, there's so many different transformations that can occur, because to me, what I hear there is just like the intelligence of the body, and how much of this is not related to our logical minds and being able to consciously understand what's going on and try to, you know, analyze and heal just from a level of the analytical mind, but really dealing with the body and also the subconscious, which is the body, and how so much of that comes through without us even understanding what's happening. And if we allow it to and learn how to work with the body, I mean, that's, people call them miracles, but I think it makes sense. We might not understand it, but the body knows.
Yeah, totally. It's like, yeah.
So, how can we bring it back a little bit for people who are like, ooh, curious? There's a curiosity, but maybe they don't have a space to join yet, or whatever the reason might be, like starting on more of a smaller level with just us as an individual. Are
Mhm.
there any practices, tips, any guidance you can give for people to start working with their body, their energy, their Kundalini?
So many. Yeah, so many. I would say I'm gonna give you a link. I have so many things recorded and I feel called to share a practice with you. It's a sattva meditation. It includes Ida and Pingala, breath of fire weaving. And so that's like when we think of meditation, oftentimes I think of like Zen Buddhist meditation, and I'm just like sitting here watching, feeling. And this meditation in particular is you're very involved in it. Um, there's a breathwork practice, the Ida Pingala one that I just mentioned. You inhale through the right, exhale through the left nostril. There's a certain mudra or hand gesture that you use for that, thumb and ring finger to plug. And then you also have the navel pumping simultaneously to that. So I'm going to look into getting you a link to that practice. It's about a 30-minute meditation practice. We have the breath work, the drishti, which is your gaze, your chant, which is like the spoken Sanskrit mantra, and then your mudras, which are the hand gestures that I mentioned. Your and so we're weaving all of these pieces together to create a specific outcome. And Kriya is, my teacher says that it's evolutionary action. And so you're taking action, you're doing these mantras, these chants, and drishti and breath work, and this and that, to create a specific result. And so that's really what this practice and all of the practices that I do are to create, a specific result. And in this case, it's evolution, growth, expansion, like experiencing consciousness. And so, there's like breathwork practices. I would say if you're new to this, like, don't go out and try and raw dog it, do it on your own. Like, find a facilitator, because of the nature and the depth and the rapid results that happen. It's important to have support. And especially if you're like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. Like, I want more bliss and more pleasure and DMT. What? Like, that's sick. And like, when we have these really profound medicine moments, it's really important to have support and integration so you can continue to compound and receive reflection and support. So I'd say, like, go to your local yoga studio, see if they have Kundalini classes. I teach a Kriya class once weekly, both virtually and in person here in Denver. And so that's an opportunity. I'll give you that resource that I mentioned, but I definitely would seek counsel and support. But one thing that actually would be a really great place to start, and this feels really safe and accessible, is starting to gain a relationship, cultivate relationship with your chakras, like I mentioned. And I started this over a decade ago, but I remember I had one of those pendulums, and I started to just like put my hands on my body and put my hand on my root and put my hand on my solar plexus, my Manipura chakra, put my hand on my heart and feel where they're perhaps with some tension or sensation. And so that's a really great introductory practice for anyone that's like wanting to cultivate more of this mind body connection, more of this spirit opening, and like harmonic, fluid, open channel. Get to know your channel, right? Get to know your body, get to know your nadis, your energetic centers, your chakras. There's so many resources online. I also teach this, but there's so many resources online. You can just like YouTube, a root healing meditation, and start from there. But I'd say, yeah, chakras are a really great way. And then if you want to get a little bit deeper and more advanced into practice, then seek counsel and support and a mentor around that.
Yeah, I love that. Just as a foundational piece, starting to cultivate that deeper mind body connection. I think that that's huge because you're just like bringing your awareness down into the felt experience of the body and awakening that so you can actually feel more. And that's necessary for anything. And then from there, yeah, I love that you say like work with someone who can support you, because I would assume that what can come out and through, I mean, you just don't know. You don't know what's been pent up in there, right? And especially like buried in the subconscious from your younger years and such. So having someone you feel safe enough to open with and who can hold that, I think is really important. Okay, let's pivot into a juicy conversation that I am personally very excited about, which is energetic orgasms.
Uh-huh.
So playing still with energy, right? Once you understand how to work with energy, work with Kundalini, I love, first of all, before we go here, how there is such a range of like, working with energy isn't just about pleasure, but it's also about like releasing and working through and removing. And so there's such a wide scope. I just feel like you're accessing such a deeper realm of information to work with when you are tuned to energy. And so one of those being states of orgasm, right? Of full body orgasm. And I know you're launching a course that you alluded to earlier called Energy O. And yeah, so first and foremost, how do these differ from your traditional like physical orgasm?
Totally. So I would say an energetic orgasm is still like a very visceral physical experience. It's just not through penetration necessarily or through clitoral stimulation. Like most people experience orgasm as either clitoral, sometimes there's cervical. I don't know all seven. I could probably think about it, but I'm not going to try and waste my brain power on that. But like an energetic orgasm can happen, like it's really cultivated through breath and subtle body awareness. Yesterday when I was in a lovemaking session, my partner was like massaging my womb. There was no internal nothing. And I was having a full blown like activation and energy orgasm that lasted, I don't even know how long, because time seems to stop or dissolve into a vacuum when we go into those spaces. And so, uh, yeah, I'm like trying to track what your question was specifically. Is it just like, what is an energy orgasm, or?
Essentially, yeah. And
Okay,
the
great.
difference. So
Yeah.
people who've never
Yeah,
experienced it before kind of understand what we're trying to get at here.
great. I love it. So I would say a normal orgasm, as many people have experienced them, feel like a cheap hit. It's like a McDonald's McFlurry and fry versus a 5-course, 6-hour Thanksgiving meal. And that's really like, like in McDonald's flurry and fry, you get high for like 20, 30 minutes maybe because you're eating it. And then there's like this big crash after, and there's like no aftercare, and there's no pre-care, and there's no, like warming up or integration. And the energy orgasm is like this rich, this deep, this elongated, this extended. I mean, sometimes it can be that way. I've experienced energy orgasms that have lasted multiple hours, and they don't have to be in the bedroom with your clothes off either. That's been actually one of the most healing aspects of my energy orgasms, is reclaiming and healing a lot of sexual trauma that I've experienced as a young woman. And my energy orgasms started fully clothed by myself too, and no genital touch. And so that's been a really profound opening for me of like, wow, I can experience this level of pleasure, connection to God, bliss, um, psychedelic states without needing to put my hands anywhere on my body. And the energy orgasms, like I remember my first one that I had experienced was over a decade ago. I was laying on my, concrete floor at my little house in the corner of the cancha football in Costa Rica on a 200-person town, and like tin roof over my head. And I just had this beautiful yoga practice. It was like watching Baptiste yoga on a fucking disc or something. Like I don't even know what I was doing. It was this amazing yoga practice, and at the end, I was laying in vipassana in shavasana, and I started to feel just like my body dissolve, and I started to feel myself become one with the world around. Like there was no longer me, cat, in this body. Like I was all of a sudden the breeze that was blowing in the jungle trees, and I was all of a sudden like the scarlet macaws that are loud as fuck and kind of annoying were like giving me like so much pleasure. And I'm like, oh my God, like I could see you in my third eye. And so from there, I was like, it's like that first, you know, you're like a kid in a candy shop and you're like, oh, what was that? I want more. Oh my God. And I remember in those early days, I had fear. I was like, oh my God, what if like my relationship with God is never going to be, like this? It's never going to be this good. Like I like got a taste of it and I wanted more. And there was also a part of me that was like afraid that I wouldn't get it. And one thing that I've really had to claim for myself is like, no, honey, this is just the beginning. Like you just opened a Pandora's box and we're just getting started. And the more that you devote yourself to this practice, I mentioned to my women who are with me joining for Energy O, I'm like, this is a lifestyle. This is a way of being. This is a way of living and moving and experiencing the world. This is not just come in, do a Kriya practice, do a meditation, and walk out. This is like really shifting at a cellular level and like core parts of your identity and what's possible to, oh my God, that dog. He's so cute. Like I just go to sleep in the sunshine.
Yep, right in the sun.
Yeah. But like it's a whole way of being and choosing to experience yourself and experience the world. And so yeah, like being an awakened woman, being an erotic woman is a way of life. And at this point, like part of what I've really claimed for myself in my magnetism is like, I'm definitely going to turn people off. Like people are totally 100% going to get the ick by me. And I'm okay with that, like it's cool, like I am glad that I'm turning you off. I'm glad that I'm repulsing you. It's clear that something that I'm doing is like triggering this part of you that maybe wants to be like fully owned but hasn't yet. um and so yeah, it's been like a really beautiful, for me, like homecoming and really healing for my slut wound. And now I get to like have fun with it because had so much slut shaming going on for the long, like 15 plus years. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm a motherfucking slut. And yeah, I'm going to help other ladies be sluts too. And they're going to love it. And like, they're coming to me for orgasms. I'm like, yes, this is great.
Like I had the codes all along.
all along. It's just like the fullness of me. Now I'm like,
Mhm.
here I am. Come get them. Like please take them. Let me help you.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think like this work is really just like about welcoming women home to the whole woman, eroticism and orgasms included.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so curious to hear a little bit more about what you've learned through this process of going from, feeling so shamed around this judgment of being a slut to now embodying your eros and your sexuality and even helping other women own that. Like, what have you learned? Because it's like, oh, you're still kind of playing with the same energy, but in such different ways. So, like, curious to hear more about that for you.
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. One thing that I learned that like has really landed in the last month or two, I went to a polarity and intimacy retreat here in Boulder, and I'm fucking embodied. Like my feminine, she is here, she is on. The whole retreat was like, it felt really good to be supported, but I'm like, okay, this actually doesn't feel like that much of an edge. Like it really didn't. It was just like a playground. Um, the biggest edge that I experienced in that retreat was needing to do a 30-second freestyle so that I could get a rose blessing. Which is hilarious because it's like, okay, I can like have an orgasm in front of these men fully clothed, but like to do a freestyle, I'm like, don't look at me. But yeah, what I learned from that retreat in particular that I'm like, whoa, I've like a lot of power is my erotic expression, my my eros, my turn on, my shakti is so healing. It is so healing. It is so healing for men. They just like like our warrior men that like go out and they fucking slay in the freaking game and are like doing hard, good work out there. And then they like come back to this woman that just like sprays and drips amrita, which amrita is like essentially female ejaculation, but it's like the nectar of immortality. It's like this nectar like of life force. And it's just this like beautiful oozy like dripping like honey like nectar. And I'm realizing that me and my erotic expression and my eros is like self. It's like honey on the parts that are so bitter and hard to digest, and like we as women, we like hold those keys within us. So that's been really informative and enlightening of like, oh, my erotic expression is medicine for people, and not only for men but like for women have come to me and they're like, I've never had an orgasm before, because I've held a lot of shame because of a sexual trauma that happened when I was 4 years old. Women that have never experienced orgasm are now coming to me and they're like, holy shit, I've never felt this way before. They're having awakenings and activations in 30 minutes and like allowing themselves to feel for the first time. And so it's been really liberating to just like claim my gifts and to share them with people. I had an experience with a good friend of mine. He came over and he was like, I want you to feed me cheesecake. And I was like, great, I'll feed you cheesecake, but you're going to have to be naked and you're going to have to be blindfolded. And so we did it. We like, he kept his pants on. I like made him cover up his cock because I didn't want to see it. But like, we went into this, I don't even know how long portal, because when we enter these spaces, time does not exist. And I was doing this like Kundalini work on him. I'm not sure what. And he was like, holy shit, who are you? What is happening? I feel like I'm on DMT. Like I can't control myself. And I'm like, you're welcome. Now you know. Yeah. So You asked about like the slut shame to like really like a full reclamation. And I was in a conversation with a friend just the other day. She's doing like these vocal activations and channeling. And it's always like the thing for me, it's looking at what is the thing that you're most ashamed of? What is the thing that you're most afraid of? And my mentor, she says that too, like shame is the source of your greatest superpower. And I'm realizing like, yeah, for me that feeling of being a slut and having shame around that, which I'm not a slut anyways, but even if I was, my boyfriend likes to call me a slut sometimes and I like it too. But it's so good. But yeah, like just fully claiming it and clearing the shame and the story around it and being like, this is my medicine, you know? And it's often those things that you're most afraid of are what's leaving clues for you to like pursue, and that are going to have the greatest impact on your life.
So how do you, what is your, like, how do you view even the word slut nowadays? Because I think even that, it has been so demonized and there's so much shame around it. But you know, even the archetype of like the sacred slut, like there's so much more to this whole picture, than like I think than the box that society has put it in, you know.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. I love that question. And yeah, I think like for me, it's interesting because I still have this lingering like scar from having been called a slut in high school. Like some girl punched me in the face because I like slept with her boyfriend that I didn't know was her boyfriend because he just wanted to fuck. Like, and so how do I define, yeah, like what is slut? So I mean, for me, the last couple of years, I've been the least sexually active, at least with new partners, than I have been throughout the entirety of my life. Like, I've spent multiple months completely abstinent. Last year, I spent 8 months. I did a dick and drug detox this year, I spent a few months. I totally meant to go longer, but like, the best lover of my life came back in. And we have them yeah, like the most God conscious, intimate relating happening. So it's been fun and confronting to realize that there are these wounds that I still have within myself. And to be completely honest, like, uh, are you a slut? Are you not a slut? It's actually not up to me to decide. It's not up to anyone. And it's really about one's own individual relationship with how they're experiencing themselves in their sexual orientation and sexual exploration. And even people that are like deeply empowered with their sexuality like to have multiple partners and call themselves sluts. And it's a really empowering expression for them. And so, for me, what I've really noticed about reclaiming the slut and being like, I'm a sacred slut, has been really just about the experience, like how I experience myself in association to the thing, because the thing is still the same, you know, like I'm still sexually active. I'm still giving blowjobs from the passenger seat. I did that recently to my partner, and I was like, oh my God, this is triggering a story. And in reality, it's just like we're having fun, and there's consent, and there's care, and there's aftercare, and there's love. And um, yeah, I think like when playing with the sacred slut too, we can create containers for it, which is what I have begun to do with my partner. Is like, okay, let's create a container. Let's create a night like that I can, you know, just be at the mercy of you and whatever it is that you want. And there's been a lot of healing in that. And every other time that he and I make love, I cry because it's so healing to these shameful parts of myself that I'd held on to for so long. And really like a beautiful reclamation process of like, wow, like, I love you and you're amazing and your body is amazing, and just cultivating a sense of reverence and respect for it, even when we're like in the BDSM, dungeons, that there's still that level of consent and respect and aftercare that happens.
Yeah, thank you for sharing more of your story. And I think a lot of women can relate. I think especially when you're a teenager and you start having these hormones kind of come online and discover your sexuality, like, but there's still so many shadow parts and shame. And so it can come out in these distorted ways. And you're not as connected to the sacredness of sexuality. And then I think we learn to push it away and demonize it and make it wrong. But it's like, it actually just is deserving a reframe and a different intention and a different way of embodying it, that I think
Mhm.
then comes into the whole container of sexuality being sacred and pleasure being, I mean, it is literally our birthright. And it is also like there's a reason women can feel so much. And I mean, men do, but it's just like when we use this in a sacred spiritual way, I think that the possibilities are truly infinite and endless, and it's so part of our creative life force energy, so everything can come alive more. Creativity, projects, I mean, everything is fueled by that energy. And so I love that, yeah, you gave that kind of trajectory that you went through and shift. To wrap up the topic on energetic orgasms, because I feel like we kind of left people hanging a little bit.
Yeah.
Just curious to hear, and this might be a similar answer to activating our own Kundalini energy, but what advice, tips, practices do you have for people who want to start to unlock energetic orgasms? And I know that this is what your whole course is going to be about. So people who are really interested, go investigate there. I'll put the info in the show notes below, but just to give us a little taste.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for the course, I too am like, guys, come on. If you could pay six, seven, $800 to literally have the best sex of your life and open doors that you never thought possible, while also getting a complete satisfaction guarantee and coming back as many times as you'd like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, you should join. But if you're wanting to get a taste and are not ready to invest in that yet, I would say exploring with your breath, exploring with your body, exploring with your own pleasure practices, and noticing what it's like for you. For me, I know there's like the erotic blueprints, and for me, I'm very energetic, as one would imagine. And for me, like what I have, where I started was like feeling what it feels like to hover my hand over top of my vulva and like start to build the relationship with the energy and the space between, and the tension that I felt, and the pulsating and the throbbing and the craving and the yearning for a hand on my pussy when it was just hovering lightly over it. And so that's where I would probably start, is really cultivating beyond like the what I had mentioned for Kundalini, but like for energetic orgasms, is really cultivating your relationship with your subtle energy body through breath, through movement. So in Serpent Rising, we went through 3 pillars and we explored one pillar each week during the challenge. And it was body, breath, Shakti. And so really focusing on primarily those first 2 will be really supportive. But like, yeah, focusing on, okay, for me right now, I'm like feeling some tension and tightness underneath of my shoulder blades and scapulas. So what would I do as an energetic being to start to move or release that is first identify like where the sensation is, then how it wants to move, and then giving yourself the time and space to move it. So for me, when I really started to tune into my energy orgasms and cultivate more of the subtle body awareness, I would, thanks to also psychedelics, I had taken some mushrooms at this point, and in this moment, I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?" But I will start to essentially like, and if you're watching the video, you can see me on video, but I will start to massage out like tension through like the movement of energy. And so I'm like, I want to move that scapular like tension that I'm feeling, and so I start to shrug my shoulder down and start to move it outward. And so I feel that energy kind of like pulsate and move through my fingertips now. And so there's like this stretching and this lengthening that's happening through my body. And I combine that with my breath. So for energetic orgasms, part of it is like really cultivating the subtle energy body, cultivating an experience of greater sensation, felt sense. And so, how do you do that? You invite, or I invite my breath into areas of my body that particularly are feeling numb. And so, Vipassana was a really great practice for me to start to cultivate mind body awareness. Yoga is an amazing modality and practice for people to cultivate mind body awareness. That's where I started over a decade ago. But I would say, yeah, just like starting with breath and inviting breath, because through the yogic lineage, breath, prana is life force. And we're talking about creating and cultivating more life force energy. And so, how do you do that? You invite more life force in, you invite more breath in, especially to the places that are feeling or experiencing numbness. And so, if I want to feel my right shoulder, okay, I'm going to be here and send my breath into my right shoulder, and I just feel it expand, right? And so that would be a really great way to start. But I would say, yeah, like hovering, working with your own energy field. If you have a partner, you can explore what it would be like to just like hover your hands over them, or vice versa. They can hover hands over you, and just let yourself like be there as slow as you need to go until you feel the sensation start to awaken in your body.
Beautiful. What do you think blocks people from accessing energetic pleasure?
They just don't think it's possible.
Mm.
I would say, yeah, like not having a blueprint, getting in your head. Like a lot of people are so stuck here. They're like, what? How are you doing that? How am I supposed to do that? And we get in this like problem solving mode. So I would say that like really heady, problem solving, and then also just not even realizing that this is possible for you. And so for me, like to give Serpent Rising the challenge to open the doors to Energy O, uh, it's just creating a field of possibility and limitless possibility of like, whoa, I can do that too. And one woman that was in Serpent Rising who's joining for Energy O, she was like, I'm literally having the best sex of my life. And I've done 3 practices. And it's because I'm a blueprint for what's possible for you. And when people, and I love a client of mine, she was like, I'm so in, like your vibe is so strong. And it's like getting around people that have the codes, that hold the frequencies of what's possible for you. And so yeah, I would say like it's either people are really in their heads about it, or they just aren't even aware that this possibility exists.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. It's a huge part of why I love doing these podcasts too, because we are mirrors for each other and expanders for each other. And when you can see and feel another person's experience, it like reminds you of what is possible for you too. And I think we all deserve to have pleasure filled lives, whether it is in sex or literally in just our everyday lives, which leads me to my final question for you of How do you guide and inspire others into anchoring these states of pleasure in more of their daily lives? So it's not just this like one off mystical, crazy heightened experience, but more, like you said earlier, a way of being, an embodiment.
I love that question. I just be me. I literally just be the brightest, most unapologetic version of me. And people love it. They're like, oh my God, like, who are you? Like, what are you? Why are you so happy? And I'm like, life, baby. And yeah, so I would say like just like full permission, authentic expression, like joy as my birthright, pleasure as my birthright. Women, you will become so magnetic. You are going to become irresistible. Like life is just like, like nothing can miss you. Everything that's meant for you will find you from that place. But I would say just like turning the fuck up on that dial and just getting loud and unapologetic. And if that's all part of the de-armoring and kind of like, uh, yeah, like deconditioning that we have to do, which we'll explore more of in Energio. But I would say, yeah, just like here I am, and we're talking about energy orgasms. My mom was like, so like you're basically becoming a sex therapist. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, what a fucking honor, honestly. The world needs it more now than ever. And it's just time. Like, we've been, as a society, especially in the West and the US, it's like sexuality has been so repressed. And it's like, it's not gonna go away. As
Right.
much as you try to shove it into a corner, it's only gonna end up coming out in distorted ways, which we've seen. And so, yes, to bring this to the light and actually embodying it in a healthy way. So I'm all for it, and I'm so grateful that you came on and shared all of this. I'm so grateful to know you, and I'm excited for all that's to come. And so share with people a little bit more about the programs you have coming, the Energy Out, all these things, and how they can connect with you.
Okay. So we just finished up the 21 day Serpent Rising Kundalini challenge, which was amazing. There were almost 30 women inside. And I'll probably run that maybe once or twice a year. So if you're wanting to get in, just send me a message and I can send you the link to pre-register for the next one. And then Energy O is starting on Sunday, I think October 19th. And so that's a 7-week container. I have intentionally chosen multiples of 7 because 7 is all about transformation and it feels very like cyclical and feminine. And yeah, so we're going to be working with the number 7 and the courses and the offerings that I have. But Energy O is like, all right, really claiming like we have the Serpent Rising, that's like the foundation. And then Energy O is like the next level of reclamation of your eroticism, of your orgasm, of your pleasure and bliss, which is your birthright. Um, and then from there, we're going to be opening up doors to a 7-month initiation to become the pleasure priestess. So I'll be initiating women into the path of the pleasure priestess. And that's all about now, like being the transmission of pleasure and healing for other people. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, is like a priest, a medicine man, like people come to them to experience, spontaneous healings. And so when we do the work and clear our channels and clear our field, then we can become conduits for other people's healing. And so that's really like the where we'll be headed. I have a Kundalini retreat that I'm leading in Costa Rica, which I'm super excited about. That's at the end of March. And then I am taking a group of women to Scotland. We're going to do a pilgrimage for Beltane and fertility and just this new season that's going to be upon us next May 2026. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. There's something for everyone there. And um, I'm not sure if this podcast will come out before the Energy O starts, but I assume you will be running this course again. Maybe I can get it out just a few days after. They usually come out on Tuesdays, so maybe if some women want to hop on last minute, maybe they can do that. But regardless, thank you for sharing everything that you did today and for being such an embodiment of this work and allowing yourself to be fully yourself. And like you said, if it triggers some people, it triggers people, but like that is also such a good sign that you are fully embodied, because it's not going to be for everyone, and we all have our own shadows that get triggered. But I hope that people will take away the little nuggets of inspiration and the codes they received that really activated something within them, and follow that in whatever way you feel called to. So thank you so much, Kat.
It's such
So
a pleasure.
grateful.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, Lily. And if any of this resonated, if you're curious about any of it, send me a message on Instagram. I'm such an open book. I celebrate you. I celebrate your pleasure, your eros. And my Instagram is I am Kat Tovar. So I'm sure Lily will put it too.
Yeah, I'll include all of the links below for easy access. And that is all for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Kat, and we will catch you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, Lily.